I'm gonna train like Joel Seedman for 1 week, and we're gonna start right now. So I'm gonna train like Joel Seedman for an entire week. So Joel Seedman sort of popped on my Instagram feed, I wanna say like 2 years ago, maybe something along those lines. And he's been called the charlatan of social media. He's gotten a ton of hate. A ton of people have said all these negative things about him, that his training sucks, he's a clown. And all of these variations that he's doing are absurd. So I will be the first one to admit that I've stolen quite a few exercises from him. And I will also be the first one to admit that some of his stuff tends to be absolutely ridiculous. He likes to talk in absolutes. He likes to describe things in absolutes. And I think when you get down to absolute discussion, it's sort of pointless when we're talking about fitness. But in so doing, he actually has developed a really big following on social media, on his platform, especially on Instagram. And he's got a really good following with NFL athletes. He trains quite a few NFL guys that are really successful. And so what I wanted to do was train like him for an entire week. So what we're gonna do is I laid out a program, 7 days, and we're gonna do a big movement right off the bat where he has this banded split lunge holding overhead exercise that he deems the hardest thing ever. So I wanted to try that. I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna see what happens with the various strength exercises. And I'm gonna see how my traditional weightlifting, bodybuilding style of training can actually have an impact on the Seedman style of some of his crazy movements, and I'm gonna see what ends up happening. So let's go. Okay, so we're gonna start right off. I'm gonna do this every single day as his impossible exercise. So it's gonna be these bands. Oh, and one thing I did wanna point out, when I have blues on, these are 20 kilos. When he has blues on, they're actually 35 pounds. So don't judge me on the weight. Oh. So I'm gonna use this as a warm up, and then we're gonna get into those close-eyed back squats. Okay, so one of the things that Mr. Seedman gets a lot of flack about is he doesn't like, he sort of says athletes have to go to 90 degrees, and his 90 degrees isn't like this. I think this is his 90 degrees because he looks at the relationship of the femur to the tibia. So if you have more mobile ankles, you won't go as deep. So I think this is where he's saying 90 degrees is. And I think that's one of the big complaints behind him is that it's like if you go past 90 degrees, you're gonna die. And what's hard for me is that pretty much my entire life, I've always squatted ass to grass. So I wanna see how these feel. I'm doing this with the eyes closed. I remember Pat Mendez did this for a while where he did eyes closed snatches and stuff like that before he got popped. But I'm gonna end up trying this out, seeing what happens as we progress. I will say this about right away, the overhead stability wakes you up. I do actually think that's a decent warm up. I think it's a little absurd, but it's not a bad warm up for somebody who's experienced. And then going into the close-eyed back squats, it's like you actually feel decent. You feel pretty awake. Mind-muscle connection is really good. Okay, so these are the Reeves deadlifts. So we got a trap bar here. This is 525. We got hundreds here. We got those fives on the middle so I can get my grip through there. So basically it's like a posterior chain, quads a little bit, or obviously quads. Here, let's see. So I might try and push this. That's 525. I might put it on 600 and see how that feels. PR 615. Reeves deadlifts. Hurt my little knuckle here on my way on the weight. Day one is complete. Started everything off with that overhead lunge, the impossible movement, which I'm gonna do that tomorrow, and that's gonna be what I use to potentiate the rest of my upper body lift. So tomorrow, we're gonna do a whole bunch of upper body benching workouts, and we're gonna see how I compare also with some of his unique pull-up variations. So stay tuned. Okay, so this is day 2 of the Seedman video where I am training like Joel Seedman for an entire week. I'm trying to see what these exercises are like. Are they as wacky as everybody thinks? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do my warm-up, okay? So I like to do a warm-up just to make sure I'm prepared, and I'm gonna use a Joel Seedman warm-up right here. Warmed up. Let's go. No, I'm actually not warmed up for this, so let's see. I'm gonna do this every single day. Oh, yeah. I actually really like doing that as a warm-up. So that is my real warm-up. Now we're gonna get into some upper body lifts. Now we're just gonna get into some standing rotating presses. So this is my first actual lift, and I'm gonna set these workouts up the way I would. So I'm gonna do a big press with a pull, probably go back and forth here. He doesn't want his presses going past like 90 degrees, so right here. So I'm thinking like almost in line with my forehead, right here, okay? I'm gonna rotate about 45 degrees, press. Boom. Boom. Rotate this way. Boom. Okay, that's the first set. Feels pretty good. I do rotating kettlebell presses, so this is pretty easy. Probably go to 70 or 80 kilos for a couple reps. I have strict pressed 315 in a seated position. I've push pressed 400 pounds, so this is pretty easy. Remember, 90 degrees is the optimal arm length. He's had Chris Carson do this, the running back for the Seahawks. I've seen videos where he is locked out here, and I know Joel is sort of opposed to being locked out, but then he only pulls to about 90 degrees here. So I'm actually gonna do it locked out, and I'm gonna pull the 90 and then come back down. We've got our stud new employee here at Garage Strength, Mason Woods, and he's gonna help me put this plate on the back of my feet. So here, up. Couple reps there, go back to the rotating presses. I really like putting my weight there. It helps with my dynamic trunk control. It helps me be a little bit more stable. And I've even seen him using bands with kettlebells and even holding plates in your toes. Those are great ways to increase that trunk coordination while you're doing pull-ups. So I like these exercises a lot. Kilos, we operate in kilos. 15K, not 25 pounds. Probably could work up to like 100 kilos. 100 kilos for 3 each side would probably be my limit right now. I am old and fat. Mason, calling all Masons. So we're gonna go 10 kilos higher or 5 kilos higher, 3 reps. I don't mind that, but I don't know, when I do a full range of motion, neutral grip pull-up, I feel it more in my lats and my biceps. I don't feel it in my joints. So I think that's where I get a little confused, but nevertheless, I'm gonna keep training because we're gonna do 2 more cool exercises here. A windshield wiper floor bench with one of the cooler one-arm rows I really like quite a bit. I think that's the thing with Seedman's exercises that I like is because I haven't done a lot of them. I have done a decent amount of them in my past life. But if I'm thinking about them, because I haven't really practiced these, there is some technique involved, and it does make me focus a little bit more on what's going on. So he doesn't like the 90 degrees, going past 90 degrees. So this floor bench is easy to focus on. I've got to be a little bit more focused on that hollow position, pushing my spine through my belly button, down into the ground to control everything. Feeling your trunk a little bit more while you're doing a floor bench, I think is always good. We had a video recently where I did floor benches with a plate on my shins. I think that this reminds me of that exercise. Okay, Mason, PR deadlift, 1, 2, 3. Feel that in my lower abs there. I think what's interesting with these movements is that some of Joel's movements appear to be a spectacle, right? And I think what happens is I don't think that is his goal. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
And I need to do a better job of this on Instagram is 80% of everything I have my athletes do, everything that I do, it focuses on the foundational movements, okay? Now, when I post exercises, I do intentionally oftentimes go after exercises that are a little bit more eye-catching because I know that for me to reach the most population, the largest portion of the audience, okay, and to make the biggest impact, okay, because that's ultimately what I'm trying to do, is how do I get people to notice things, read a little bit more, and to, you know, basically take a look at what I'm doing.
But that's not for me to jump to that conclusion. I think what people struggle with, they call him the charlatan because he might do something like this, and it looks wacky, but you can feel it in your trunk a little bit more, which will help with dynamic trunk control. If you don't know what that is, watch our previous videos. Because Joel's the only one doing it, and his athletes are the only ones doing these movements, there's no context. I've really just done Olympic weightlifting and bodybuilding my entire life, essentially, with some powerlifting sprinkled in. So I got up to 160K. This is only the second time I've ever done this movement. It's not crazy, it's not gonna change your life, it's not gonna do anything like that, but it can provide a bit of stimulus. It's gonna force you to adapt. Okay, so one of the other things I think that bodes against Seedman is that he has crazy names. So he calls this the, the plank renegade bear crawl row. Dude, just call it like a bear crawl plank row or something. I don't know, maybe that's not even that good, but I really like this movement. It really brings in the gut. It brings in the gut when you're doing all the different movements that we're focusing on. And I believe if you look at his stuff where he does hip locks, he understands dynamic trunk control. On my right side, when I do this, it's definitely weaker, and I think that's because when I was throwing the shot, I was always decelerating on the left side. What I see is here, 90 degrees, ideally in the knee and then the hip. And then when you row, you're gonna go from the floor, and you gotta make this face. Face mocking aside, I would prefer to do a full range because I think it actually would force a little bit more of anti-rotation, but it's a great exercise. I like to use it. I've stolen this in the past, and that's gonna finish off day 2. Tomorrow, day 3, I'm gonna go into a little bit more of the dynamic stuff that he does. So tomorrow's gonna be more like the athlete day before we start to really finish off this week. So tomorrow's day 3, some crazy movements tomorrow, help me get a little bit more explosive. So let's wait, see how I feel. I'm not overly sore from day 1. Let's see how I feel tomorrow as we keep plowing through the week of Seedman. Day 3. Ooh. First time doing this weight. That's Joel's PR right there. 3rd day doing the exercise. It is hard. Mr. Seedman, you've challenged me today. I was not ready for that. Probably should have been focused when I did that. Ooh, there we go. There we go. Oh, this is challenging on this side. Okay, so we're doing the athlete day today, and I just did the overhead split holds with a new PR, which was 80 kilos. But now I'm going into this lift, and this is where I do these exercises. I was joking around the first time I did this, and I almost fell over because I wasn't focused, I wasn't prepared, I wasn't paying attention, I was clowning around being a dope. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned is that all these movements, you've got to be freaking focused. So I'm gonna try and focus on this one because I end up doing that right there. So I'm gonna go here, you know, contralaterally here, it's not that bad. Like, this isn't hard. Big feeling through my heels, obliques. Trying to make sure I'm straight. Now, when I go to this side, it's gonna be freaking hard. I feel like I lean a little. It's not too bad. I did the first 2 things of the unstable training. Now I'm gonna do, I see some of his guys doing these snatch pulls, like snatch high pulls, and I'm a little confused by how he does them because it actually sort of looks like snatch high pull to me. So that's actually what I'm gonna do. And we're gonna pair that with a unilateral explosive movement with one of his versions of like a split jump or a jump lunge. So we're gonna do 4 to 5 here, and then go into those split squat jumps or jump lunges. Feels good, feels good. These are the split jump lunges here. Okay, so that's pretty hard. I actually really, that's not bad. It's like a good unilateral plyo, decent control. And I'm pairing that with a trap bar dead. So I did the Reeves deads 2 days ago. I'm not sore or anything, so I feel like I can do this. Let's start at 315. We'll do a double with a slow eccentric. Pretty good. Let's do another set. There we go. Oh, these are good though, I like them. So we got 405 trap bar, slightly fatigued. Take about 30 seconds. We're gonna do a single, lower about 2 to 3 seconds, come back up in about 6 seconds into the stair jumps. Those feel good, I like those a lot. I know I make a joke about some of this stuff, but they are good. It's just keeping in mind what the context is of the movement and what you're trying to get out of it. At least that's my take on the Seedman system. 4 more days to go. Day 4. Oh, let's go. These are a good warm up. I actually don't mind this. Loosening me up, feels good. Day 4, we got a big day ahead of us, leg day. I'm on day 4, this is 4 days in a row of training, and I think that I'm a little sore, like a little bit in my shoulders, a little bit in my quads actually, which surprised me. A hamstring slightly, but one of the things I was gonna say is that I think that needs to be a point of awareness with Joel's stuff, is like everybody wants to jump on him and rag on him. But the thing is like you look at some of his stuff with Chris Carson, right? So running back, that dude was already a freak. He's already freakishly strong. So Joel doesn't need to do a lot of craziness with him as far as in the weight room and weights are concerned. But by doing these things, like I'm not that sore, I'm not that beat up, I'm not that fatigued, and it's still stimulating me, it's still forcing me to adapt. And I think that that's just like a general concept. And for me personally, I feel like my background in Olympic weightlifting, a little bit in powerlifting, but I wasn't a competitor, and then with like the bodybuilding concepts that we use, has prepared me really, really well for Joel's stuff. So it's transferring really, really well to Joel's stuff. And I think that, you know, his stuff so far, and this is day 4, so I've got a couple more days before we figure this out, but I don't feel that bad. I feel like I'm recovering pretty well. I am a little sore in my shoulders, like I said, maybe a little bit in my lower back. So we're gonna see how the rest of the week feels and keep rolling. Ooh, the old Jefferson dead. So I used to do these a lot. High school wrestling. So this brings back memories to 10th and 11th grade, 2000, 2001. Smashing Jefferson deadlifts with Coach Maurer. All right, so here's the other thing with Joel's stuff is like, dude, these guys do push some good weight. I've seen videos of his guys in the split squats doing like 400 plus, and those are hard, difficult lifts. Jefferson dead is not easy. I feel like it's a little more challenging version of the hex bar, of a trap bar. So this is 230, it's like 507. Just gonna do a double, hopefully. That was a little funky because I bounced off the back, but that was pretty good. Okay, so these are like his variation of the Copenhagen plank. I actually think this is one of those two where I will get a little bit sore. And that's one thing I wanted to touch on. I've been doing a little bit more of a focused eccentric tempo than I typically otherwise would, and I'm still not that sore. So maybe it's either I'm executing it poorly and not doing enough of a controlled eccentric, or there's something about Joel's training where you do those controlled eccentrics, but you're also doing some isometric actions as well, and that could help with preventing severe soreness. I really like this movement a lot for groin health. Oh, especially for me because my left side is weak. Day 4, complete. Tomorrow we're smashing some more upper body gains. Some of his stuff's really unique that we're gonna get into day 5. Upper body day warm up. Then we're gonna get into some reverse plank, dumbbell bench, some sprinter pull-ups that I really enjoy seeing, although I would do full range. And then one exercise that's absolutely killer at the end of this upper body day. So now we are on day 5. That's good. So we're doing reverse plank, dumbbell bench. That was 100s. I'm assuming it's to get a little more hip engagement, a little more posterior chain. It's not hard. It's fun though. Okay, sprinter pull-ups. I've seen him do these a couple times, a couple chains. My only issue with doing chains and pull-ups is I don't like them on my traps because I always feel like I'm sort of like inhibiting my range of motion, but Joel likes the 90-90. I don't think he wants me to get up past here on that joint when I'm doing the full pull-up. So it might be actually accomplishing what he wants specifically. I like these though because of the trunk functionality, and they're hard and I'm out of breath. It's not bad. It's like a Z-press variation, a little more trunk control. Decent though. My biggest complaint would be like, how the hell do they set these lifts up with people in the gym? Oh yeah. Oh, it wasn't bad. It's again, just setting up the lifts. They're a little cumbersome. So that's day 5. We got 2 days left. Day 6, we're gonna get back into some leg stuff. Day 7, I'm gonna try and find some more bodybuilding stuff that he has. Finish off the week with that. Keep this baby rolling. I'm interested to see if I'm sore tomorrow. My pants were falling down. I love running like that. Okay, we're on day 6. I'm feeling pretty good. We're gonna start off with the overhead, the impossible lunge. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pair that, I'm gonna superset that with an isometric hip lock hold. And then we're gonna get into a gap back squat. And then we're gonna finish off with a unilateral overhead lunge into a hip lock. So I'm trying to use the first 2 exercises to like potentiate everything, do some bilateral work, and then come back to a unilateral work that sort of combines these first 2 exercises. So feel pretty good. First time I've ever done 70 kilos the first set. Probably gonna do 2 to 3 sets and then we'll get rolling. God, I'm strong. Oh, I'm such a beast. I think I'm gonna make up my own version of a Joel Seedman. I'm gonna do 1 more set of these and I'm gonna do a little Dane Seedman alternative. One more. Oh yeah, that's a good warm up. Feeling good. I feel like it's a sin to do this stuff in a grease shirt given to me by Piros Dimas. He would be appalled by my squat technique and my exercise selection. I think that's the big thing is like these movements only take you like 2 to 3 reps to figure out. Like guarantee you next set will do better. So they look super complicated, but 1 or 2 sets in, you feel it out and they feel pretty good. I was running my mouth and I still screwed up those reps. I really like that exercise. I think this is great because you feel it. Trunk, shoulders, hips. Your hips open up big time. 1 more day. We're going into day 7 tomorrow. Smash some upper body. All right, I'm ready. Day 7, last day, smashing weights. This is one of my favorite exercises. So Joel does this. I've done this for, I want to say since training with Dr. B, but this is one of my favorite movements on the bench. When you're trying to get a pump, focusing on shoulder stability, we've called that shit show bench. Just hit some unstable movement there, trying to wake up that nervous system. We're gonna rest about a minute. We're gonna go over to XPT. You can pick that up at xpt.com. I've seen Joel play with this. We're gonna do a sprinter start into a bench throw, one on each leg, and we're gonna go back and forth. Ooh, I actually like that a lot. It's like engaging your hips more. Reminds me of shot putter bench. Shot putter bench is like benching with your hips up off the bench, which we do a lot, but we get a lot of flack for. What I really like though, it's like engaging everything that we stimulated on the shit show bench with this. If you notice, my right side's a little bit higher, probably because I'm right side dominant and I was a shot putter, so I probably favored that side a little bit. But pairing these two together, A1. This is the one I'm interested in. I see him doing, go here. Oh, I like it. I like it. I think that's the whole cool part with a lot of this stuff is a lot of gut work, instability and gut work and good explosive unilateral work. Oh yeah. That's the thing too, it's like, we got a lot of kids that can do reclining rows bilaterally. Well, you just throw in a little bit of a mix, pick that one leg up, go to one arm. Now all of a sudden, you start to see some tweaks in their movement, and that really could be the little percentages that you need for them to get to that next level. Oh yes, I love this exercise. Sometimes we'll use this movement, and Joel uses this, I've seen. Now we'll use this if we've got guys with shoulder issues to wake up their upper back. Sometimes you'll see kids dumbbell bench and they sort of go like this, here. If you do dumbbell bench, you do that. Throw this band on, and boom, forces your upper back to be more active, and it's extremely challenging. So I just did, like I said, 20, however many reps that was. That's also, I believe, the guide for Joel to get that down the chest, but absolutely great exercise to help teach mechanics and just get a stupid pump. Okay, so my full take on the week-long training of Joel Seedman. But before I get to that, we've got a subreddit where you can sit there and you can put in a whole bunch of your ideas. What do you want to hear from us? What are some ideas that you want to hear us touch on? And what we're going to do is try and pull even more from the audience so we can help you guys solve your problems. But one of the big things with Joel Seedman is that I think people have mocked him. People have looked at him through a microscope with just one-off exercises. I'm just as guilty. I've made fun of him with the no warm-up sprints. I've made fun of him with his air curls and some of the other ridiculous movements. They are over the top, but there's also a lot of movements that he does that I think can really help trigger different aspects of coordination. I think that's one of the big important parts here is that I try to put a context to a lot of his different movements. It's hard to see like how hard they are. It's hard to feel how hard they are. And some of them they're very easy to go really heavy on. Some of them are absurd, but there's a lot of them that I'm gonna steal that I continuously do steal. I'll play with them. I'll test them out myself, and then I put them into the program. I think we've got to remember with Joel, he trains a lot of professional athletes now. You know, he's in a center down in Atlanta, and he's got a lot of guys coming in and out of his gym. So he needs to get adaptation without completely destroying them. And so I think that's got to be a huge perspective is that, you know, a lot of guys take is that they can't do Olympic lifts, so they can't do powerlifting based training or even bodybuilding based training because they're worried that they're going to beat up their guys. So now the NFL guys that we work with, we'll still do weightlifting movements. We'll still do full range of motion movements. And that's okay because it's my system. And I think that that's what we got to look at with Joel. Joel has his system. His system is working for him. And so we can't sit here and judge him and make fun of him and do all those things. We got to take the greater road, recognize that he is a very polarizing system. He's doing a good job with marketing, and we can pick and choose which movements that we can utilize as strength coaches and as athletes and use them to our best advantage in our own specific training system. So take this advice, and I think you just be a little bit more positive. And then in turn, I think Joel's gonna help share his ideas and his theories and his results. And maybe he'll stop speaking in those crazy absolutes, but maybe he won't, because that might be part of his whole marketing shtick. So if you want more content, you want more reactions, you want a reaction to Joel Seedman, click on this card right here. Until next time, guys, peace.